Understanding the sacred geometry of Providence in your most difficult personal seasons, there are moments in life when everything seems fractured, when plans collapse, relationships strain, and the future feels uncertain. In these seasons, it is easy to assume that life has lost its order, that suffering is random and meaningless. Yet within the Catholic understanding of divine providence, nothing is accidental. What appears chaotic often follows a deeper, hidden design, a kind of sacred geometry authored by God Himself. This does not refer merely to mathematical shapes or patterns, but to the divine order underlying creation. Scripture affirms that God arranged all things by measure and number and weight. This reveals a profound truth. God's providence is not arbitrary, it is precise, intentional, and purposeful, even in your most difficult personal seasons. There is a structure, a divine pattern that is unfolding beyond your immediate perception. Consider how often the Bible reveals God working through what seems like disorder. Joseph was betrayed by his brothers and sold into slavery. The pattern was not visible in the moment of suffering. Only later did he declare, "You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good." It was only through time that the geometry of God's plan became clear. What looked like broken lines were actually part of a greater design, leading to salvation for many. This is the first principle. God's design is often only visible in hindsight. During trials, we see fragments. God sees the whole structure. Like a master architect, He aligns each event, joy and sorrow alike, into a cohesive plan aimed at our ultimate good, which is union with Him. In difficult seasons, we often resist suffering because we cannot understand its purpose. Yet Catholic teaching reminds us that suffering is not meaningless, it is transformative. Through suffering, God shapes the soul. Just as a sculptor chisels away excess stone to reveal a masterpiece, God uses hardship to refine. This process can feel painful and disorienting, but it follows a divine logic, a sacred pattern of purification, growth, and renewal. The cross of Christ is the clearest expression of this sacred geometry. At first glance, the crucifixion appears as utter defeat and chaos. Yet within that moment lies the perfect intersection of justice and mercy, suffering and redemption. The cross is not a random tragedy, it is the central axis of God's plan for humanity. From it flows salvation, grace, and new life. When you face your own crosses, you are invited into this same pattern. Your suffering is not separate from Christ's, it is mysteriously united to it. Even your darkest moments are woven into the redemptive design of God. What seems like an ending may actually be a turning point in a larger, unseen structure. Another key aspect of this sacred geometry is timing. God's providence operates according to divine timing, not human urgency. We often want immediate answers and quick resolutions. But God works through seasons, periods of waiting, growth, and preparation. These seasons are not wasted time. They are essential parts of the pattern. Think of a seed planted in the ground. For a long time, nothing appears to happen. Yet beneath the surface, roots are forming, strength is developing, and life is preparing to emerge. In the same way, your difficult season may be a hidden stage of growth. God is building something within you that cannot be rushed. Trusting in this process requires faith. It means believing that even when you cannot see the pattern, it still exists. Faith does not eliminate suffering, but it transforms how you experience it. Instead of seeing pain as meaningless, you begin to see it as purposeful. Part of a divine design that is leading you somewhere. It is also important to recognize that God's geometry is not always symmetrical. In the way we expect, life does not always balance out according to human logic. Some wounds remain, some prayers seem unanswered, and some paths remain unclear. Yet even in these asymmetries, God is at work. His design is not limited by our understanding of fairness or order. It is rooted in love, a love that seeks our eternal good above all else. In practical terms, how can you live with this awareness of sacred geometry in your difficult seasons? First, cultivate trust through prayer. Bring your confusion, pain, and questions to God honestly. Trust grows not from having all the answers, but from remaining in relationship with Him even when answers are absent. Second, look for small signs of grace. Even in hardship, there are moments of light, acts of kindness, unexpected peace, or subtle guidance. These are like glimpses of the pattern, reminders that God is present and active. Third, remain faithful in the ordinary. Often, God's design unfolds through simple acts of obedience, daily prayer, acts of love, perseverance in responsibilities. These small steps are part of the larger structure God is building in your life. Finally, remember that the ultimate purpose of God's providence is not merely to solve your problems, but to transform your soul. The goal is not a life free of difficulty, but a heart conformed to Christ. In your most difficult personal seasons, it may feel like everything is falling apart, but from God's perspective, something is being carefully constructed. The lines may seem broken, the angles unclear, and the outcome uncertain, but the design is real. One day, you may look back and see how every piece fit together, how every trial, every delay, and every unexpected turn formed a pattern more beautiful than you could have imagined. Until then, you are invited to trust the divine architect who wastes nothing and orders all things with perfect wisdom. This is the sacred geometry of providence, a hidden, divine design unfolding even in the midst of your deepest struggles. Thank you for watching the video. If you found this video helpful, please like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next video. Goodbye.